His father Zechariah, speaking about John, was filled with the Holy Spirit and prophesied. Please get this guy hasn't been able to talk for 9 months. And the first word that comes out of his mouth is, praise the Lord, the God of Israel, because he has come to his people and redeemed them. He has raised up a horn or power of salvation for us in the house of his servant David. Now let me just take a quick break here and just remind you of what Romans chapter 1 verse 16 says. The gospel is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes. So prophetically, he sees that the Messiah is coming, and it's the power, it's the horn, it's the power of salvation that's coming. And then he goes on in verse 70, and he says, and he, as he said through the holy prophets of long ago, and there's only one verse that I have to just emphasize this, what the prophets were saying, and there's so many scriptures I could give to you from the Old Testament where the prophets warned us and told us about this. But Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9 is a classic where it says, for unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. Say, guys, we've waited so long. Everything the prophets and the fathers of old told us is coming. Verse 71, as we go on in our reading, salvation from our enemies. This is the message, the salvation. Salvation from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us, to show mercy to our ancestors and to remember his holy covenant, the oath he swore to his father Abraham, to rescue us from the hand of our enemies and to enable us to serve him without fear. And to enable us to serve him without fear. Another sermon, but I can't get into that. In holiness and righteousness before him all our days. Prophetic. The covenant God made with Abraham was first expressed when God promised to Abraham while he too was yet without child. He said in Genesis chapter 12, he says, and all nations, all people on the face of this earth will be blessed through you, Abraham. Because the Messiah is going to come through your life. That's why we read in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21, God made him who had no sin to be sin for us so that we might become the righteousness of God. Verse 75, as you see on the overhead, and in holiness and righteousness before him all the days. We come into God's presence because Jesus took his sin, my sin, upon himself, and I have access into his presence.